All right, so what I wanted to show you guys was some enhancements that are coming in version 11 that can also be put back onto 10.3 as a plugin. So if anybody wants this right away, this is something we can offer right now. And mainly what it does is it's really geared towards companies that are producing estimates using billing rates. So for any kind of services work or maintenance work, anything where T&M work, change order work, anything where the contractor is going to produce a proposal to their customer that shows their outside billing rates for their resources instead of coming up with a cost plus profit scenario. So this job here kind of does a little bit of an example of that. This is the one that we presented to Veolia just recently, and they seem to respond really well to it. But this is a real simple example where this is a $100,000 project basically, and you can see the CBS structure is very simple. We haven't broken it down into lots of tasks. There's not a lot of complex WBS in here. It's really just we're breaking the project into what materials are we going to need to buy and provide on this project. This is kind of an industrial cleaning project, an actual project. I'm sure you guys know what all of these chemicals are. There'll be a test on that later. So we got our materials, we got our equipment. We're basically coming in and saying, okay, we need this equipment. We need so many of them for so many hours. We need, this type of personnel. And the way I set this up, and none of this part is new, but just so you can kind of see the setup here, I brought in this hours duration column into the CBS so that we can very easily come in here and say, if it's a 200-hour duration, or maybe it's going to go to a 300-hour duration, and when I change that, it's going to change the hours of the resources down below, right? For the ones that are duration based. So this is, imagine this is a template for a typical services project that really all you need to do is fill in these quantities or these durations. So what's new though is, as you guys know, if we look at one of these resource rates, if I go in and open up that resource rate, we have a cost rate, but then we also have this billing rate. So previously to this feature that we're going to look at in just a minute, the only thing we really did with that billing rate was on the job tracking side for calculating time and expenses billings, for projects that were already underway. So this enhancement now is going to give us the ability to produce estimates and proposals using these billing rates to present to the customer instead of the cost rate plus a markup. Okay, so each resource we can define what the billing rate is, or we can go in and put some kind of a percentage markup on top of the cost rate to arrive at that billing rate. Okay, but assuming that we've got billing rates for all of our resources, materials, labor, equipment, now what we can do is once we've put in our quantities that we just looked at and our hours, now we can go in and go to report. Right now this is going to show up as a custom report. Once it's released as part of version 11, then it'll be in the pay item and proposal list up here, but with 10.3 it shows up under the custom reports if you put it in as a plugin. So what we're talking about is this billing rate report. So let me show you the options on this thing. The cost item selection and print options are the same as every other report in terms of where we want to send the stuff out to, what items do we want to print. We can pick and choose in the CBS if we want to just print certain items in there or print the whole range. The details tab is where all the new stuff is though. So there's really 4 different types of reports we can generate from this. So let's just go through each one of them. In fact, let me pull in our header and footer settings that we showed to Veolia, so this is going to look nice. So let's do a resource price list. Notice right here that these percentages allow you to increase or discount your billing rates right here on the fly. So you can kind of do some what ifs right here without having to go back to every resource. Like if we wanted to give a 10% discount on our labor rates, we could just come right in here and make that at 90%. So we're going to use 90% of our billing rates. Okay, if we wanted to bump up our rates by 10%, we'd put it in like that. Okay, so we can change those things on the fly, run the report without having to go back to mess up our master resource rates. So we could easily control that on a proposal by proposal basis. Okay, so let's run this one. So this just gives us a nice little, as the name implies, it's a resource price list. So it's basically showing you here's the resources that we're using in this project. This doesn't get into the hours or quantities or total costs or anything like that. It's basically just a price list. So just like we have to do from time to time on our services engagements, we just need to provide a report that shows, hey, here's what we charge for these various types of resources. Okay, so these are all based on billing rates. We also show at the bottom of this report the notes that comes from the cover sheet for the project. So if we put in some notes, some disclaimers, anything we want to show up down there, that'll show up. And then the next one is, so if we wanted to show the estimate details with those billing rates, this is kind of like our estimate details report, but it's a little more summarized, and it shows it to us based on billing rates. So now we have our CBS. Remember, in this job, we just had 3 simple CBS items: materials, equipment, and personnel. So we get the resources that are listed under each one of those. There's that billing rate. Then there's the actual utilization count and the total cost. And then we give you a subtotal for each level 1 CBS item. Okay, so this would be and obviously you could change the title for this report, like you can on any of the reports, right? So we could go in and change that title. This could be a proposal report that we hand off to the customer that shows, hey, here's our expectation of the cost. It's $260,000 of revenue basically to us as the contractor. That's the price to the customer. Okay, so let's go and run. This one is basically the same thing but summarized, so without showing all of the resource employments, it's basically just giving you a total of each CBS section. So same total, 260,000, but now it's not breaking it out into all the different personnel, all the different materials, all the different equipment. And notice what it does is it gives you an average rate in here, so it calculates that average rate. Okay, so if we're using lots of different labor types like we are on this job, instead of showing all those, it's basically just giving us a blended rate for all those. We still arrive at the same totals. All right, and then lastly is this margin analysis, which is going to this is more of an internal report that's going to allow us to see, based on our internal cost and our billing rates, what kind of profit are we going to make on this project as the contractor. So CBS items, all the resource employments, billing rates, cost rates, quantities, and then off to the right we get, so here's our total cost, here's our total revenue expectation, the difference between those two gives us our markup, and then we calculate your markup percentage and your margin percentage. So if we go down to the very bottom, we can look at this grand total and see that, hey, we're expecting to make $131,000 in markup, and that would give us about a 50% profit margin. So this uses billing rates. So any markup you put in the CBS does not. So you got to choose one or the other. I mean, you're going to either use markup, and apply markup using the PBS, or you're going to use billing rates to drive your markup. So the whole purpose of this is to use billing rates. No, I mean it's really two different paths. I mean you could put markup in the PBS and then use any of our existing reports to generate a report that shows your cost and your markup that way. But if you want to do it using billing rates, then you'd run this report. I will. I'll do a write up on it and send it out to everybody, kind of like what we did with the On Center thing. We'll make the files available so you can download them and put some instructions on there.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, you got it. All right, take care.